You're listening to Four Things to Know, a WCCO daily news podcast.
Today is Thursday, April 23rd. I'm Johnny Kahner. Thanks for listening to Four Things to Know. Let's get to your first thing to know today. A wild police chase and crash in Golden Valley. This morning, MnDOT cameras caught a speeding black SUV on northbound Highway 100, closely followed by the Minnesota State Patrol. And then, a few minutes later, that SUV crashed and two people inside get out, jump a barrier, and run across 3 lanes of traffic to get away. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And that's where our Frankie McClister picks up the story. He's in the Golden Valley neighborhood where those two people ended up in. And Frankie also spoke with one witness, Jeffrey Held.
Bloomington police just told us that this all started right before 7:30 a.m. We were here at around a little after 9 a.m. when we witnessed someone being detained. But like I said, we just found out a ton of new information, so we'll break it down for you right now. Now, they said that 2 called, and one said that there was a stolen vehicle down in Bloomington. Now, the other said that there was someone trying to gain access to their residence. So when we arrived to the scene right here in Golden Valley, we saw squad cars from Edina Police, Hennepin County, Bloomington, Minneapolis, and the Minnesota State Patrol. A man that we spoke to here in Golden Valley was doing yard work after we watched that person in handcuffs and said that he heard squealing from the highway, looked out his window with binoculars, and saw something swimming in the nearby pond.
Almost immediately, there was a highway patrol up in my driveway, and he came up to the door and asked if what we saw and so forth, told him everything, and I opened up the garage and the shed doors for him so they could search those, make sure nobody was hiding in there.
Yeah, so new information from Bloomington says that they have 2 males in custody. Both are from Minneapolis, ages 27 and 20, and they were both taken to hospitals for treatment. We're going to continue to cover this all day long. Obviously, it was during the early Thursday morning commute.
Number 2, today, another plea to ICE to release a woman detained during Operation Metro Surge. Barrett Leone has the update.
Federal immigration agents arrested the woman in Burnsville in February, just days before she says she was scheduled to have surgery to remove a large ovarian cyst. 23-year-old Andrea Pedro Francisco moved to Minnesota seeking asylum with her mother back in 2019. Right now, Pedro Francisco is being held in a detention center in El Paso, Texas. This morning, Minnesota lawmakers called for humanitarian parole for her. They say her ovarian cyst is causing extreme pain and bleeding and poses a risk to her life and long-term health. Senator Elise Mann is also a practicing emergency room physician.
An ovarian cyst this big can put weight on the ovary and cause the ovary to twist onto itself, cutting off the ovary's blood supply. This is a medical emergency. This can impact fertility, and we are talking about a 23-year-old. If not treated, this can lead to infection and even death.
A Richfield pastor said today that he met with Andrea Pedro Francisco last week in the detention center in El Paso. He said she looked thinner than what he had seen of her in pictures. She told him she's forced to climb up to a 3rd-level bunk, even though she can barely climb that high because of the pain on the right side of her abdomen that continues to her back.
Number 3 today, drones and a SWAT team helped make multiple arrests after a deadly shooting in Edina. One person who still has not been identified was found dead near the shopping center around 12:30 yesterday afternoon. Southdale Center, mHealth Fairview Southdale Hospital, and other businesses were locked down for several hours. Drones and then a helicopter circled from the top, and SWAT teams stormed the area. Later in the afternoon, authorities then arrested 3 men, and we spoke with surprised neighbors in that area.
Very unsafe. This shouldn't have happened. It's usually a quiet place. It has some good people. There are some troublesome people, obviously. Everywhere has that. But we're usually just all trying to do what we need to do to live life, get jobs, and have futures.
Investigators believe the 3 people arrested all knew each other, and they do not think it's a random shooting. Number 4 today, it is another huge night for Minnesota sports. Let's start at Target Center in Minneapolis, where the Timberwolves are hosting Game 3 versus the Denver Nuggets. The series with Denver is tied at 1. The Wolves are hoping to keep their momentum after their major comeback in Game 2. Now, tip-off tonight, it's at 8:30, so it will be another late night for Minnesota sports fans. Let's hope we can get a 2-1 series lead, unlike the Wild last night, who fell in St. Paul. Now, just on the other side of downtown, it's the NFL draft. Yeah, the Vikings are hosting a draft party tonight at US Bank Stadium. Their party starts at 6 o'clock, and if you go, you can meet some players, watch coverage, win prizes, and more. Now, tickets are $15 on the website. The draft starts at 7. The Vikings have the 18th pick of the first round. We'll see if they trade up, trade back. Who knows? I'd like to see a defensive lineman taken. Those are the 4 things to know today. Now let's check in on our next weather forecast.
Hey guys, thanks for the meteorologist Adam Del Rosso checking in. We've got a possible next weather alert. We're tracking a cold front that has the potential to bring some strong to severe thunderstorms our way as we head into the early evening hours. But overnight, basically as we get closer to midnight and beyond, things quiet down, things clear up, and the rest of the night will be okay. But any of the strongest storms that happen to develop from the metro southward do have the potential to bring some damaging straight line winds and some hail. Can't rule out an isolated weak tornado across southern Minnesota. But again, there's a lot of question marks with just how unstable the atmosphere is going to get through the rest of the day. Otherwise, temperatures definitely going to be cooling down behind that boundary. Overnight, we drop back into the mid-40s for our overnight lows. We're going to have a decent amount of sunshine for our Friday, but we're going to have some breezes out of the north and west, and that's going to keep our temperatures a little bit closer to average in the low 60s, which is pretty much right where we're supposed to be for this time of year.
And now, here's more to know.
We're following a really interesting story that's come out of the state capitol, so let's get into local politics right now. A betting blunder. Yeah, a betting blunder has put a state senator in the hot seat. DFL Senator Matt Klein is running for Congress. He says he placed a $50 bet on himself to win his upcoming congressional primary race, and he did that through the prediction market Kalshi. The twist, though, is that Klein is now helping push a bill forward that would actually regulate or possibly even ban the very same platform he used to make his wager. Klein says he made the bet out of curiosity after hearing about the site from some friends, and he says it was actually his first time ever wagering. But months later, Klein says he was notified the bet actually violated the platform's rules, and he ended up paying more than $500 in a settlement. He's also banned from using the service for 5 years. In a statement, Klein apologized, adding his experience highlights the need for clearer rules and regulations. But political analyst David Schultz says the incident raises ethical concerns as well.
When it comes to politicians, I would hope that we expect a higher standard of conduct. I know some people say we should just say treat them like everybody else. I actually think politicians should be role models. They should be setting the tempo for the rest of us. And especially for somebody who says that I want to regulate this type of a market, to now violate the basic rules of that market really poses a problem.
One of Klein's opponents in the primary he bet on is Minnesota Representative Caleb Berg. Berg called his bet insider trading and said it was wrong, but DFL leaders say Klein has taken responsibility. Bills to regulate prediction markets have had bipartisan support this session. The man accused of attacking Congresswoman Ilhan Omar has changed his plea to guilty in some sort of settlement agreement. You might remember the incident. It's when the representative hosted a town hall in Minneapolis in January. While she was speaking, prosecutors say Anthony Kazmierczak jumped up and sprayed her with apple cider vinegar. Charges say Kazmierczak said to another person that somebody should kill Omar. He was facing federal and state charges for assault. His change of plea hearing is set for next month. Sticking with politics, some software services that the state government in Minnesota uses, they're really old. Actually, some date back to the 1980s. WCCO's Capitol reporter Caroline Cummings is digging into how some lawmakers are hoping to change that.
Some of Minnesota's IT systems are older than me. The oldest, Maxis, is used to enroll people in food assistance, and it launched in 1989. Lawmakers have called it Oregon Trail vintage tech that's in desperate need of an upgrade. But it could cost hundreds of millions of dollars to replace this program and others like it used for other social services. And there's a bipartisan push at the state capitol to shore up support. One idea would create a special revenue account with funds dedicated to upgrades on an ongoing basis. In the Health and Human Services budget in the Senate, DFLers earmarked $70 million over the next 4 years for this. But one lawmaker says one-off funding like this each budget cycle from the general fund isn't enough and wants to change the state constitution to allow the legislature to borrow money through what's known as the bonding process. It's how infrastructure projects are funded today.
Minnesota Governor Tim Walz is writing a book that was inspired in part by Operation Metro Surge. The book is called Good Neighbors, which comes out next year. Last night, Walz was a guest on Jimmy Kimmel Live, and he didn't talk about the book, but he did talk about the surge and Minnesota's response to it.
40 below zero, tens of thousands of people out there delivering food to their neighbors, blowing whistles to protect kids so they could get on the bus. That tells you what the heart of this country is, and more of us than them.
The governor also told Kimmel that he is launching a political action committee, or PAC, to help support everyday people get elected in Minnesota. The Basilica Block Party will not be returning this summer or ever. The last block party was in August of 2024, and it was held out on Boom Island. But for more than 2 decades, the Basilica Block Party was always held near the church and in July. But the Basilica did not give a reason for ending all future block parties, but they did say they look forward to new events and opportunities to build connections in the future. Let's get to some more sports headlines quickly. The Minnesota Twins still in New York. They're taking on the Mets. First pitch tonight at 6:10. Now, unfortunately, with the Twins' loss yesterday to New York, the Mets' losing streak is now over. It was 12 games long, their longest losing streak since 2002. Wow, let's start a new one tonight, eh? And the Frost, they finished their regular season on Saturday in Vancouver. They did lose last night, but they have had their playoff spot clinched for quite a while now. So the regular season almost done, playoffs just around the corner.
It's time to take a breath with your Daily Bright Spot.
Most of the time, a visit to the school nurse is just to get a Tylenol or an ice pack, right? Well, actually, at Roseville High School, the nurses are literal lifesavers. School nurse Trace Kahner got called to a gym class. Here's the story. A student fell and hit their head, or at least that's what everyone thought. But suddenly, that student went into cardiac arrest. Kahner called his fellow nurse, Kelly Feneyes, to grab an AED. Chest compressions were started in the meantime, and then the 2 nurses, with the help from the other staff, saved that student's life. She is back at school now with an internal defibrillator in case it happens again. Obviously, hopefully that never happens, but certainly good to know that we have trusted professionals that are really, literally saving people's lives and students' lives in class. Well, I'm Johnny Kahner. This has been 4 Things to Know. We are here with the news you need every weekday afternoon by 3 o'clock. Thanks so much for listening and watching us on YouTube. We'll be back tomorrow, everybody.
Listen to 4 Things to Know, a WCCO daily news podcast, wherever you get your podcasts.
Love podcasts? Love Minnesota?
Check out the WCCO podcast studio lineup.
Hear the top stories of the day with 4 Things to Know.
Discover top female athletes and teams from around the state on women in sports.
Dive into stories about faith and belief, from your local leaders to your neighbors next door, with Bigger Than Belief.
Stay in the know on the go with the WCCO podcast studio. Go to WCCO.com/podcasts.